Hello. Mm, I'm just feeling all the beautiful excitement bubble up as I'm sitting down to do this episode today with all of you. I'm recording this on Sunday. It's been a weekend without my boys. Yeah, the weather in Texas has been like so gorgeously moody and rainy, but like it hasn't rained. So it's been like foggy and rainy, but hasn't actually rained. So there's all this like gorgeous tension. Like, is it gonna rain? Is it not? So yeah, I'm home alone today. My partner is working. I'm gonna record this podcast episode, and then I'm actually gonna head out to ecstatic dance in a couple hours. I have our community does a dance every Sunday. I'm really looking forward to getting to move my body. Ooh, this last week was very intense for me, just so much roller coaster emotion. And it feels good at the end of a week like that to just go shake it out, let it all out. And so I'm really, really looking forward to that. And most of all, looking forward to just getting to record this and connect with all of you. It just feels so lovely. Every time I record, I like just feel in my chest this tapping into each and every one of you. And it always feels really exciting and super, super yummy. So to start with, I just had to say another like incredible shout out to the women that have been in the community. We finished up our 3 weeks total of test running the community together this last week. It was amazing. Just far exceeded what I could have hoped for. You know, I put so much love and work and effort into creating the space, but that has like paled in comparison to the women that have come in and the way they have taken that space and made it their own and already are forging, deep relationships with each other. And just the level of support that I've seen has been really inspiring. And that's something that I could not do. That's something that comes specifically from you guys in the community. These are women who I've either coached with or that have been on 90-minute intensives with me, and they get the vibe. They get what we're trying to create here, which is a space where we all feel safe to be vulnerably, authentically our messy, beautiful, wild selves. So yeah, it's been really freaking amazing. And I just wanted to shout out to all of them again. I love you all so much. So deeply grateful and amazed to watch the magic you're all creating. So in that vein, part of the really exciting piece for me with having the community up and running is that one of the like magical parts of creating it was realizing I get to pick a different theme for every month in the community. And I can't even tell you how like exciting that was, because it's like, oh my God, I get to talk about all my favorite topics. I get to do deep dives in the community. And I wanted to kind of also let that, be facilitated here through the podcast by having from here on out, every first podcast of the month will always be related to the theme that we're going to have in the community for that month. So in that vein, for the month of November, we just had this month open up, and our theme is focusing on dancing with fear. And really specifically, kind of 3 areas of that, which are learning to engage with it, then understand it, and ultimately allowing courage to take the lead. Yeah. Y'all, I have like a total kink thing around fear. It is such an omnipresent emotion in our world. It has been, I would say, the main source of fuel and a powerful way to control people. And I know in previous podcast episodes, I've been like, no, I'm fucking not here for that. Using fear to control and to manipulate others and to keep them small and to make them give up their truths. So this month is really about seeing fear through a very different lens. And I loved the idea and the imagery of dancing with it. I think of that show Dancing with the Stars, and just like the beauty of two partners when they are, you know, is it synarchy? I think that's the word I'm thinking of. When they're like working together in tandem, building off of each other, using each other's momentum to create something that on their own wasn't as powerful versus the two of them together. So kind of crazy when we're thinking about that as like ourselves, and dancing with a partner who across the other way is fear. And can you just feel it? I hope we're all getting to feel this like really yummy, sexy, like kind of dark energy that fear presents. I think it's also because, we're coming off of this past week where we had Halloween, and so much symbolism, so much of the dark, opposite kind of side of the coin. I also am having like strong images in my head right now flashing of the death card in the tarot. I remember when I first started working with the tarot, it was like, ooh, what's that? Like, no, that looks scary. And now, as I've come to really understand, respect, and appreciate the card, I actually really love the death card whenever it comes up. In fact, I'm thinking of a deck. It's my favorite deck of all time. It's so silly that I don't know the name of it because I just use it so much. I haven't even paid attention to what it's called, but I'll link it in the show notes. Gorgeous. By far my all-time favorite deck. Not only will I link it, but I'll on that page that I link, you'll see down below she has a like thing on her website where you can pull a card. Absolutely love it. Whenever I'm just kind of like in a funk or something, I'll be on my phone and I'll pull a card from that deck because her explanations and the way she explains the cards is just really insightful and very helpful. But in this deck, her death card is this robed figure that doesn't have a face, and where its face is like a universe or like stars or something. And I just love the mysterious like ooh-ness of that image. And same thing with just the death cards and the skeletons, right? There's something there that like simultaneously repulses and calls us forward. That is the energy we're going to be working with and trying to kind of feel more into in this episode with this idea of dancing with fear. And I really wanted to start off just kind of out the gates saying part of why I think we are so adverse to fear is because it is so sensational. So sensational is a word I'm going to be using a lot more. I've been using it a lot in the community. I've been doing a coaching program with, Carolyn Lovewell from the book Existential Kink and her coaches. And one of the biggest takeaways I've had from that is just how much we don't, as humans, like to feel sensation in our bodies. We have a very broken relationship with knowing how to hold high sensation in our bodies and to let it thrum through us and to feel it and to enjoy it and to find pleasure in all kinds of sensations, not just the ones that we've identified as pleasurable. So when I say, fear is not something to avoid, I'm coming at it from the lens of like, why we want to avoid it often is not because it's necessarily so, it's not going to kill you. There's nothing it can do to you. It's just you're having a really intense sensational experience in your body that your brain is registering as awful. We need to get away. When if you will actually stay with it, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the episode, this is the shit that makes life spicy. This is the thread, the knife's edge in life that really makes you feel alive, especially when you are doing things that matter to you, that are important to you, that speak to your soul, even in the face of fear. And what I have learned I would really say definitely for sure over the past 5 years since getting a divorce, dancing with fear, leaning into it, really letting it teach me and help me shed my layers of conditioning and learn more about myself. we learn so much more about who we are in the face of fear than we ever do in the face of, comfort and peace. And not that we don't need both, right? But I really want to make a case for helping you guys understand fear in a very different framework, right? I'm using very different words around fear. I'm using spicy and yummy and even sexy, right? To feel that high sensation. Makes me think too, one of my good friends once said, and I'm sure she got it from somewhere, but that like fear is just excitement without breathing. So noticing how close when we feel turned on or excited, that high sensation, that can often be a very similar body resonance to what we're feeling when we are feeling fear. So as we go through the episode, kind of allowing yourself to maybe put fear during this episode, like it's almost like we're taking it out of your normal realm of like, ew, bad, don't like that, get it away. And we're letting it come in the door and we're letting it sit down on the couch and we're like, hey, tell me more about you. What you got going on there? So to start, just to kind of begin our foray into getting in touch with fear, because I know y'all, in considering divorce, this is like the number one emotion at play here. Now, it comes in all different forms, right? I think it comes in, it can be manifested in a flavor of shame. It can be manifested in flavors of guilt, but they're all kind of leading back to this root of fear. So I wanted to start us off by asking you all to just, wherever you're listening, to pause and think, what are some of my greatest fears right now? And for a lot of you, right, in this space where you're like, am I going to stay in the marriage? Am I going to go? Those might be fears around the unknown. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to make things work? And, you never even have considered a life where you're not married. I mean, I know I hadn't. I was always going to be married. I was always going to be a mom and a wife. And so I didn't even have a framework of what a woman who gets divorced looks like after that. You might be afraid of judgment. What are other people going to think? What are my parents going to think? What are my best friends? Am I going to lose all of my social group? You might be afraid of finances. How am I going to make it on my own? What if I don't have a job? How do things actually get split? Will I have enough money to make it? And then, of course, and I'm only touching on a few. There are many others, but as we talked about these last two podcast episodes, a lot of fear can be around your children. How is this going to impact them? What's their future going to look like? Now, if you're feeling a little bit like, ooh, I don't know, like, which are my two greatest fears? I want to ask you two questions to kind of help you on this. And if you don't have time right now to sit and really write this down, this is going to be a great episode for coming back to if you happen to be driving or walking or unable to really journal or write things down. I will highly recommend listening to this again at another time and letting yourself take it even deeper. So one of the ways to take it deeper is going to be using these two questions to really flesh out and let yourself see the answers, because they're all going to be rooted in some kind of fear. So the first question is, what am I truly afraid of if I choose to leave? So just sit with that for a second. Notice what comes through. And then this second question also might help. What fear keeps me staying even when I know I'm unhappy? Okay, so now that you've thought through these, I'm hoping that you have identified at least two of your top fears, because I want you to kind of keep those at the forefront as we're going through the rest of the episode. So one of the biggest things I have found with fear is, especially when they are unexamined, when we have not pinned them down and they're kind of this amorphous, specter in the background of our lives that's always there, we can start ending up feeling like that is what is calling the shots in our life. because we're like unwilling to turn around and look at it. And so we're constantly letting it dictate our next moves just to avoid having to look at it. This is the whole like, ooh, the boogeyman's behind me. I don't want to just turn around and see it. So I'm going to keep making sure that I only do things that will keep me in this narrow view so that I never have to look at that. And where that gets us is a lot of the feelings that you're probably dealing with right now, right? The feeling of being stuck, noticing if you're avoiding a lot of decisions in your life, avoiding communicating, or deep down really doubting yourself. And those feelings, right? The stuckness, the avoidance, the doubting, those can be, as I was saying earlier, like kind of those offshoots that are ultimately just coming from that deeper root of fear. And here's the thing to really understand about fear too. And I want to point out, because I think a lot of us, when we are in the process of considering divorce, think, okay, once I make the decision, the fear is going to go away. But that is just not the case. And this is just like, I would say it's not that it doesn't go, it's not a like magic pill, basically, or a fix everything moment of like, when you make that decision, now we don't have to, like, now we're never going to face fear again. It does shift things in that when you make a decision, I think that's when you really enter into the dance. That's when you're saying, okay, fear, I see you. I'm ready. Let's go. That doesn't mean fear is now going to go away, though. It just means your relationship with fear, because you've now made a decision, is different. Instead of the previous relationship of feeling stuck, avoiding your decisions, doubting yourself all the time, you have now said, I'm ready to dance, bitch. Let's go. And I want you guys to understand this, because fear is not something that, I think the way I'm thinking of it is like, it's not that it's a glitch in the system. I think sometimes we think the goal is to get rid of fear, but take a second, y'all. Like, it seems to be an integral part of life. I would say, yes, even though I made an incredible decision and got divorced, and that was like the right decision for me, still have had many moments since then of fear and having to once again make a decision of, am I going to let this fear shut me down? Am I going to avoid and, make myself smaller to avoid it? Or am I going to look it in the eye and dance with it? So that was more of just to help you guys realize, it may feel like, oh my God, all this fear is here because I'm considering divorce. The work you're doing right now through this beautiful lens of considering divorce is teaching you and helping you heal your relationship with fear, which is ultimately going to pay off big time for the rest of your life, because fear will be there in all the different ways, whether it's, going for a new promotion at work, whether it's maybe starting your own business, whether it's going on a date with that cute guy at the coffee shop that you always see that you end up asking out, after you're divorced. Like, this episode, it's beautiful that we get to talk about it through the lens of considering divorce, but realize fear is here to stay. And that's okay, because if we will let it, it makes an incredible dance partner. So, to help you all in this episode, I am going to end up giving you 3 tips to help you in getting out of the feeling of stuck and trapped by all of this fear, and moving into the dancing part of that relationship that you can end up having with fear. But before I do, I wanted to also share with you all, just in this vein of like, what are our top 2 fears? And to kind of show as well this reflection of, here I am 5 years out and I still have fears. Right now, my top 2 biggest fears are money and kids. So when it comes to money, I definitely have a fear right now that I will not be able to get out of debt. And yes, that may surprise many of you, but that is where my path with building a business and ultimately doing a lot of healing work over the last few years has led me. And Oh, this is a place where I have a lot of fear, mainly because, growing up, I was taught to have so much shame about debt. So that's one of the areas where I've had to really do my own work. I'm going to talk later about, like, even just yesterday, feeling and having to face my fear around this. Also, the second one that I have is just, lately, as my 14-year-old is growing up and going through the process that teens do of individuating, there have been really painful moments of disconnection and me struggling to parent him while also balancing and managing, like, reparenting and individuating myself at the same time. And, I am a recovering, still probably going to be the rest of my life, perfectionist that loves to feel like I'm always doing things right and everybody's happy with what I'm doing. And that is not the name of the game when you are parenting a teenager. So I'm also, managing and having to feel into a lot of fear in that area of my life. Now, one of the things that we will notice is when fear comes in, we typically, most of us will respond with one of those four fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. And I think it's really important too to kind of know where you're at and what your two go-tos are. My top two at the moment are flight. So when I'm feeling afraid of something and not wanting to look at it, my flight response is to work or clean. Like, you can tell when I'm a little bit edgy because I'm working a lot more and I'm cleaning a lot more, or to end up fighting, which I see the fight response in me as more of a control. I try to control the people around me. That also kind of ties into that flight, right? I try to control my environment. I try to control my work. And I think why it's so helpful to see these is just for that awareness piece of noticing when you are just working all the time lately. Ooh, hold up a second. Maybe there's something here that I'm trying to avoid. Is there a fear right now that I'm not wanting to look at, that I'm, holding at bay or ignoring through going so hard on my work, maybe even at the expense of my relationships or my self-care? And I just wanted to note, for those of you that have the Pete Walker book around complex PTSD, he has a chapter on these four responses, and really, really helpful and beautiful, just diving deeper into that. Also noticing I used to be, when I was married and growing up, a lot more of a freeze, kind of like paralyzed, shut down, and fawn response, where I was really caretaking others and trying to make everybody happy. And I still do those sometimes, but it's very fascinating when you learn them to, like, start noticing how those can change over, over your lifetime. And I think, a lot of our responses to fear, where they are rooted, is that, deep childhood experience of what it was like when we were kids and what we needed to do to survive in those instances. And that's why the awareness of it is so key. Also, tying back into the complex PTSD, fear can often trigger us into emotional flashbacks. Oh, and I am going to pause for a second here and just kind of make a quick, like, deeper explanation on this, because I've had some people reach out on the podcast and be like, oh, when you were saying emotional flashbacks, I thought you meant like flashing back to a specific memory or experience in childhood. But no, when Pete Walker talks about emotional flashbacks, what he's trying to convey with that word is that when they get triggered, your body goes back into a state that feels like you're flashbacking to when you were a kid. It's not necessarily linked to a specific memory as much as it is an emotional state from childhood. And fear is such a trigger point for this. And you'll know an emotional flashback by how much you go back into, like, these four different realms of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and kind of overwhelming feelings of being very hopeless or very helpless. I'll often talk with my clients, like, you can see how much your brain function changes from when you're, like, grounded, feeling secure, and in kind of like what I call myself as, like, adult Britta, where I'm like, yeah, I can handle this. I've got this. Like I have allies and resources and things that I can use, versus when I'm in a flashback, it's like the whole world is falling apart and nothing will ever be good again. And I feel like a little kid in an adult person's life, and that feels abso-fucking-lutely terrifying. So that's what I mean by emotional flashback. That's what that experience is. And why it's key to understand that is because when you can have awareness of that happening, like, oh, wait a second, I'm feeling completely hopeless and helpless. I'm feeling like if I leave, I will live in a cardboard box with my children on the street. You can catch it, use the flashback management, which Pete Walker talks about, to reground into your adult body. And then when you realize, wait a second, I'm an adult now with resources, with people who love me, with friends who have got me, with perhaps, a coach that is working with me or a therapist that understands me. From that space, you can choose to respond differently than just automatically going into those 4 common responses. Now, with that in mind, I wanted to share specifically the 3 tips that I have for you all on how to shift this relationship with fear. I just explained kind of what most of our relationships are, right? Fear's kind of that specter in the background that we don't want to look at. So we spend a lot of time avoiding decisions or doubting ourselves or really getting stuck in confusion and staying in one spot. Or we're just kind of rotating through fight, flight, freeze, or fawning whenever fear comes up. So to start shifting that relationship, to start playing with the dance, to start even considering like, ooh, maybe I want to dance with you instead of be avoiding you. You fear you. My first tip for you all is to engage the fear through body sensation work. Now, as you guys know, there's a episode I dropped. It's like a part 2 a little while back where I actually led you through a guided meditation that helps you do this in your body. So highly recommend using that resource. Again, if you're finding like it's difficult for you to do this practice without having someone guide you, that can be super helpful. But what I'm talking about specifically is that when we learn to allow the fear in, okay, and this is really a movement out of like resistance. I kind of think of it as your hands like pushed out in front of you, just really holding back the fear, or, holding your head with like blinders on, like really trying not to look at it. When instead we soften and we let the fear in, or we're allowing ourselves to look at it and to start feeling through it and being with it, you will be blown away at how much power is available in just this what seems like a very small act, right? We're not even taking any action at this point with the fear. All I'm asking is for you to open the door of your body and to let the fear come in and be felt without resistance. Now, one of the analogies that I love for like what this can look like, how it feels, even beyond, I think the dancing feels like a later step for this. But I often think of it, and I'm going to forget his name. I think it's Joseph Campbell. Yeah. I'll actually include, there's a really beautiful documentary that talks about a lot of his work with like themes and stories and the myth of, the hero's journey. In that documentary, he made this point of like, our dragons are not to be slayed as we think in so many stories, right? That like, oh, the dragon's the bad thing and you have to go kill it. But actually, that the work is to befriend our dragons. And once we have befriended them, then we get to ride them, which the riding piece I would say is really what I'm talking about when I say like dancing with fear. So the first piece though of that in this analogy is sometimes when I'm taking my clients into their fears, it's like, okay, we know there's a dragon here. Let's go together to go find it. And we even sometimes visualize like that moment of letting yourself turn and seeing this giant mythic beast staring at you, right? Whatever that fear may be, right? The fear of not being able to make it in the future, the fear of your parents judging you for wanting a divorce. This is the moment of where we turn and we look and we just feel that vibration of acknowledgement of like raw fear coming through our body. And it's not, I think in that moment, what's so helpful too is to realize like the dragon isn't coming at you. Nothing's happening. We're not actually, when I do this work with my clients, we're sitting in a safe, contained space. We're in a space where either they're sitting on a chair or they're laying on their bed, or they can just know that they are held and safe in that moment. And all we are doing is feeling the sensation in the body. So I want to encourage those of you listening, like I said, using that previous podcast episode I did, the part 2 one, take some time this week to let yourself do this exercise of stepping away, having some alone space, some alone time, where when you come to that meditation, I want you to start by thinking of what you fear the most and then allowing yourself to drop into the body. And when you do, you will notice how sensational that is in your body. And the practice is merely breathing into that sensation in the body and starting to notice and name what it feels like. So for me, I can even feel if I specifically think about, I'll bring up my debt, for instance, and I'm thinking about it and I'm feeling it in my body like, oof, I can already feel there's like this clenching around my center, like midline, starting in my heart, coming up to my throat, tightening in my throat. There's a lot of like flushing in my face. I can feel some kind of like heat. Woo, it is very hot in my house at the moment, I'm realizing. Or maybe that's just the sensation of the fear. I'm kind of feeling like I'm breaking into a little bit of a sweat. This is what I'm talking about, of like, I'm just staying with and I'm noticing without thinking, ooh, I shouldn't be in debt, or ooh, how am I going to get out of this? I'm just noticing, what does this thing that I fear, looking at it, create in my body? So I wanted to also provide you guys an example of kind of what this can do with my assistant actually this week. I love, love her. Her name is Alex, and we both, I think pretty much everybody, I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't have trauma around money. But she definitely has her own trauma around money. And I'd recently reached out to her, as we've been working together, and I was just like, hey, would you like me to coach you and kind of help you through some of this stuff around money, just to, make it more comfortable for you to receive getting paid by me. And she was like, absolutely. So we'd done a session, and as we were coming up against, what it was, I could tell pretty clearly. I was like, okay, she's just going to need to fill. So we activated this fear around money for her. And in the beginning, it was coming through a lot as waves. I've talked about that like when you first activate, it's going to feel like this big rushing wave of sensation that if you'll stay with it, will completely crest over and through your body and then eventually dissipate. So we had done probably about 2 to 3 of those waves. And it was very, very interesting because, of course, if you'll do this where you let the sensations come through, by the end of it, you start to feel more light and open. And it's really it's totally fucking magical, because it's like your body knows what to do. It's opened up now. It's ready to like receive different ideas. And I felt this really interesting, intuitive, like click that came through. And I was like, oof, I want to play with what this might do in her body. So I had her think about what it would be like to open her bank account and find that there was more money than she had expected. And she was like, ooh, that feels really exciting. I can feel my body like picking up, kind of rising up, and it's opening. And I was like, yeah, so feel that, really notice that. And then I was like, okay, so now I want you to imagine that you check your bank account and there's less money that you expected, but you still feel just as excited as you did when we previously checked it and there was more money. And she was like, whoa. And I said, what's happening? And she's like, well, when you were telling me to check and that there was less money, my initial body reaction was to like, oh, go down and feel disappointed. But then all of a sudden you told me, and I want you to just feel just as excited about there being less money. And she was like, this burst of sensation came through her that was even more sensational and felt more like than when she'd looked and there had been more money in the bank account. So as we played with this a little bit more and we're like, ooh, what is that for you? We were able to identify that for her, that moment of choosing, like no matter what my bank account looks like, even if I open it and it has less money, I'm still going to choose to feel like powerful and confident. That for her, it brought in this beautiful edge of like kind of rebellious, like society, the world tells me I need to feel bad when my bank account is less than I think it's going to be, but like I'm going to feel good regardless of that. And I was just like, damn, yes. So this is the incredible power that you start unlocking in your body when you intentionally look at the dragon of fear and you sit with what it feels like in your body. And this is really kind of, I think of it as like, it feels almost like playing chicken a little bit with yourself, because we have been trained to think that, oh my God, I can't feel this emotion. Something bad's going to happen. When in reality, when you sit with your emotions, you realize they cannot kill you. Like, when you are feeling emotion and letting it just be processed and seen and digested through the body, there's nothing happening. Like, as far as outside of you, like you're just sitting there observing the internal sensations moving through you. It's really, really wild, because it's like, oh my God, when you finally do it, you're like, wow, I've been running from that for so long. I've been resisting that for so long. And that was it. Like, yes, it's super intense, like a roller coaster, like straight up, straight down, But then you get off the roller coaster and you're like, woo, well, look at me. Like, fuck yeah, I'm here. Let's do it again. So that is my first tip for you all, is to start engaging your fear through this very, like, I'm going to say simple, but that doesn't mean it's not intense, but this simple practice of letting the fear in, and using that analogy, right? Of like, it's like fear's been banging at the windows and the doors, and you're like closing all the blinds and you're like shutting all the doors, trying to keep it out. Meanwhile, you're the one that's like freaking terrified and scared living in your house in the dark because all your windows and doors are closed. Like, no, open that door, let it come in, sit on the couch. Sometimes I imagine it as like, yeah, like a scary skeleton in a black robe, like sitting on my couch. And I'm like, hey, would you like some tea? I'm like totally dying now because I'm like watching it, drink tea as it pours down its insides. And I'm like, all right, next time we'll put something down on the couch so that doesn't stain. Like, this is the beauty of interacting and engaging with your fear and letting it be processed through the body, because once you do, on the other end is some serious fucking power, is the ability that I had just right now when I was like laughing about this idea of inviting fear in, of, okay, I'm looking this dragon in the eye now. It hasn't eaten me yet. I'm still alive. Oh shit, I'm still alive. Wait a second. Maybe I've misjudged this dragon. Maybe there's something else here. And that leads us to my second tip, which is get information. Start digging in to actually understand the fear. And this comes back to a practice that I often do with my clients, where we separate out facts from the thoughts. So our thoughts can be so inflammatory, wild, creating lots of really scary emotions. And then if we take the time to really look at the facts, sometimes we will be absolutely shocked. We're like, oh my God, I just created a whole bunch of crazy about that. And this is what the facts were. So a good example of this would be yesterday. I can feel that with my money, I have recently been in more of a like flight kind of area of like, I'm just not going to look at it. It's going to take care of itself. Like occasionally I'll deal with it, but like I got other things to focus on. So yesterday I was like, okay, now's the moment. So I downloaded Rocket Money onto my phone, and y'all, the amount of sensation I had to go through to just stick with the process of like going and resetting all of these passwords on all of these different financial accounts to get all of them loaded in, to even just have a clear picture. And what I did is I just kept breathing through all of it. And I was like, yep, there's the fear. I see you, fear. Yep, you get to be here. And we're just going to keep taking the next step. And we're just going to keep doing the next little thing. And it was very, very sensational going through it. I also knew that as I stayed with it, the sensation would decrease. Very, very sensational at the beginning. Sure enough, as I kept going through it, the sensation was getting easier and easier for me to hold in my body. And this, y'all, is the biggest piece, maybe not the biggest piece, but it's a huge piece of what dancing with fear gets you, which is this, it makes me think of like, I've been going to a personal trainer, in the gym for at least 3 years now, and how beautiful and strong my body is because I go every week, twice a week, and do the hard, in some ways, sensational work of lifting weights and pushing my body and letting it be uncomfortable on purpose. That's what I was doing yesterday with the Rocket Money. I was feeling the discomfort and the sensation of that, and I was letting myself breathe and be with it. And because of that, I am strengthening my muscles and ability to be with high sensation in my body, which is the game changer. Because y'all, if you want that freaking amazing relationship with that really incredible partner that gets you and sees you and like looks into your soul, in case y'all are wondering, it's super sensational. It is very fucking intense in your body. This is when I talk about like, how emotions always have their equal and opposite. Damn, ladies, like the equal and opposite of like fear and the amount that you are able to hold high sensation in fear is like the amount that you are able to hold high sensation in love. It is wild how that works. So just know this is being able to have the skill of holding high sensation in your body is what is required to live a remarkable life. Therefore, we can often think, oh, we just need to get rid of fear. If I could just not feel fear, it would be better. No, the work is to be able to feel all of it. And I will go to my dying breath, continuing to push and make the point that however deep and dark you are willing to go on feeling the full range of the emotion on that side of the spectrum, that is the equal and opposite amount of life that you will get on the more light, positive end of the spectrum. And boy, if anybody fucking understands that, is that me. I have gone through some really horrifically difficult, very, very painful, dark sides of the spectrum as far as sensation goes. And holy shit, have I had some of the highest highs, most amazingly mind-blowing, like I live in a movie kind of experiences on the opposite end. So I want you guys to take away from this understanding that this is really the heart of what you're all wanting long-term in life. Like, it's not just let's do this so that we can get through the divorce. It's let's do this so that we can have the life that you most desire. Now, coming back to the second tip of getting educated, why this is also so important is because so many of you, especially like a lot of you that I talk to on the 90 minutes, right, who are really afraid that like you won't be able to make it after, you haven't gone and gotten educated about what's going to happen with the assets or what the rules are in your state around divorce. I mean, this is a really big deal. I have a client right now who the state that she lives in, from the moment they separate, I think they still have to be separated for an entire year before they will even be allowed to file for divorce. So go gather your information, start connecting with supportive resources. You know, if you have friends that have gotten divorced and it went well, find out what attorney they went to. Go have a consult with that attorney. If you have, you know, friends that don't know about what's going on in your life yet, but that you feel like would be able to support you better or be able to understand, speak honestly with them. Another piece I really want you guys to get educated on and understand as you're doing this part of like understanding your fear is understanding an element of patriarchal and cultural messages. So this is so big for like understanding why you might be afraid of certain things. Like, you know, I definitely, being raised in a patriarchal Mormon household, like had no framework of like women making their own money or starting their own businesses and thriving. So I have really had to do a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work cleaning out that understanding that like this is what I was told, and it feels really, I'm putting this in air quotes, true, because I was told it so many times over and over and over. And it was like all I saw in my reality growing up. But that doesn't actually mean it's a fact. It doesn't mean it's true. If there are other women out there in the world that have started businesses, that are single, that manage to make it on their own, then I know it's not a fact. It is not a, you know, non-contestable, verifiable truth that money comes from the man you married. So be aware as you're looking through these thoughts and the things that tell you to be afraid, like where'd they come from? And are they actually factually true? Or do they just feel really true because that's all I've seen? Okay. The third tip, I really am excited. This one's like my favorite because this is kind of like the end, not the end of the journey, but yeah, I guess, because these three tips kind of build on each other, right? The first one is like actually engaging the fear by letting yourself feel it. The second one is understanding it, like actually digging into the facts versus the thoughts. And this third one is allowing courage to take the lead and really joining in to this dance of life. Because hello, y'all. If you haven't noticed, life is a lot about fear and love and how we let those two things either shut us down and make us small or open us to expansion. And I really am going to repeat it again. Like, I do not think fear is a glitch in the system. It's part of the experience. And through moving into a new relationship with it where you approach it with courage and like, okay, fear, what are you here to show me? What new dance moves are you wanting me to engage in? What, you know, I've never done salsa. Okay. Just because I've never done it doesn't mean I can't learn. And in this way, fear becomes a powerful instigator for change and movement. And I think the heart and soul of this third tip of really letting courage be the way you interact with fear is realizing that there is something even more powerful than fear within you. And that is your inner knowing. Especially in like the political climate right now, in just the world as it is at the moment, this last week, I've just felt so deeply this call back to like the only truth I can really be fully certain of and feel grounded and safe in is that like deep inner knowing I have inside of me. And that inner knowing I have found when I trust it, it is so much more powerful than the way I have related to fear in the past, right? Through the resistance, through the avoidance, turning to fear and looking, in that same analogy, looking that dragon in the eye with my inner knowing standing next to me, it is what has allowed me to make choices that really align with my truth with fear being present at the same time. That's what really drops me into that super sexy dance of like, okay, here we go, which I would say is, that piece. So if we tie back into looking at the dragon, is that moment where you're feeling all of the feelings. Then we understand the fear. That's when we actually go up to the dragon and we start looking it over and we realize it's not biting us, or, this piece over here might be something to consider. Maybe I need some more information here. Maybe I need some more support over here, right? This final piece, though, is when we realize, oh, this fear actually unlocks something big in my life. It is calling me to something different, or it is asking me to make a move that may create so much more freedom in my life, which is the incredible moment at the end of like climbing up on that dragon and being like, fuck yeah, let's go. I'm ready to ride you. Now, how do we get to that point? I want to emphasize that I tend to take a very like jump on this dragon, let's go approach in my life that can be very, very inspiring. I also want you guys to realize, though, that is in tandem with a lot of small steps that matter as well. So when I am feeling very overwhelmed by fear, that is not when I'm like, let's fucking send it. I mean, I used to do that a lot. And maybe this is more of a like knowing when the timing is right. There are definitely times when it's like, okay, this fear, I just need to just turn, run, jump on that dragon and like fucking go. And then there are times though when it's like, you know what? The fear for right now, I just need one small act of courage. And that can be as tiny as like a single honest conversation with someone where maybe you're just saying, no, I can't do that. Or I need this instead. Or letting yourself be vulnerable and reaching out to a friend. It can be as small as like, I think I've talked about it in the beginning, as like I signed up for like a pottery class early on in my journey. Or I told my mom, like, we're not going to be talking on the phone every day anymore. Those were all little tiny steps that as I took them built more and more of that confidence and really brought me back into that like connection with that inner knowing and self-trust. So just know we do this through reconnecting in with that inner knowing and then just taking the next small right step. And I really want to like frame that in that if you guys keep waiting, if you keep thinking, once I don't feel afraid, then I'll be able to act, you will never move forward. That is not the goal. The biggest takeaway I hope from this episode is that the goal is not to eliminate fear. If you wait until you are no longer afraid, you will never make a step. That is not what the dance is about. The dance is about leaning in even when you are afraid. And I would say even using like instead of a I'm not afraid energy, grounding down into more of a like I can handle this kind of energy. Because if there's one thing that I have seen consistently over and over and over from you all on my 90-minute sessions is like, oh, fuck yeah. Y'all are very, very strong. You have depths and reservoirs of strength that you do not clearly see in yourselves that amaze and blow my mind when I'm on those sessions with you. And one of the biggest things I think that so many of you have appreciated and that I've heard feedback on is just being validated and seen in your strength of like, damn, queen, I see you and you can handle this. You got this. It makes me think, I have a client that I'm working with this week. And when we first started working together, there was a lot, just a lot. She's in a very painful marriage with an covert narcissist, which is one of the most confusing and very, very crazy making relationships you can be in. Because of that, she's had a lot of like her reality being denied and just a lot of being made out to be the crazy bad one in the relationship. And I have watched her over these last 3-4 weeks of working together just step into seeing more of herself more fully and realizing, I think also through acknowledging the abuse, realizing who she really is and what she deserves. So try that energy on in the future when you are feeling like, oh my God, the fear is just too much. Bringing yourself back to that feeling of like, I can handle this. Or even just like, I can figure this out little bit by little bit. Listening to this podcast right now, like, this is you figuring it out. This is you taking that next step. Now, I just want to say, this is like, as I was coming up with this podcast outline, this is where like my heart center and my chest just started really like thrumming and getting excited, was to just kind of shout out to all of you that when you dance with fear, your life becomes really fucking vibrant. And this is me really reflecting back on like all that I have been through these last 5 years, like, and kind of shouting out to y'all, like, you think I wasn't scared to go to Burning Man? Like, I was terrified, y'all. I was going to meet a friend that I had never even met in person, to like live in the desert with her and a group of people I'd never met, not a single one of them, for a week. Like, I was totally scared of that. Do you guys, you think I was terrified to get divorced? Absolutely. I was so scared. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had no career, no way to, make money for myself. I was scared to testify against my dad in front of family members who supported him. Just even to testify in front of my dad, to stand up and speak my truth against a person who was my parent. Like, there are so many moments in my life where I have been so, like, fear has been right there in front of me. I think back to, the New Year's Eve dance at the start of this year. I didn't know a single soul. I was going into a space where I knew absolutely nobody. And then to show up at a party the next week where I also, like, I'd met these people, but like once, like, I didn't really know very many people. And yet, my loves, as you all know, what were the magic things that came out of all of these things, right? I went to Burning Man and I fucking opened a portal that completely changed my life. Like, it's been just over a year now since that experience. And this last year has been explosive for me. I launched a podcast. I launched my community. I've fallen in love with someone that I am like, oh my God, so incredibly, like, we are built for each other, and it is changing so many aspects of my life to be loved in this way. In getting divorced, I went on this huge journey of self-reclamation and healing. Testifying against my dad, like, totally opened my throat chakra. Like, there was massive karmic generational magic that happened with that moment. So I share all of that to say, in this beautiful dance with fear, all of these like little steps that I'm taking have also led to these really beautiful, big moments of dancing with fear. And what has come out of those moments are by far the moments that I am most proud of myself. Those are the experience where I have learned fear does not define me. All it does is show me where the next step of the dance lies. And if I lean into it and I trust myself and I follow my inner knowing, and that's through the little, like, the next steps, right? There were many little steps taking me all the way to the burn. There were many little steps taking me through the process of working with, a therapist all the way up until the point where I was able to stand up and testify against my dad. There were many points leading up to, many people I dated leading up to the partner I'm dating now. So it's finding the presence and the groundedness to be with the fear, not only in the big moments, but in the daily moments of seeing yourself, loving yourself, coming back to that self-trust, and really just getting fucking good at being like, yeah, there's that sensation. There's that fear in my body. I'm going to ride that wave. So to kind of finish off this episode and bring you guys into this space where you really get to connect with what could be waiting for you in your future, I want you to, if possible, if you're driving, don't do so, but I want you to close your eyes. So we're all just going to close our eyes. Ooh, maybe take a couple deep breaths. This has been a super yummy, intense episode. So much, just like, I can feel it, all the energy thrumming through me in this episode. But I want you to take this moment to imagine your life a year from now. And imagine it being a life where you have been allowing courage to guide your choices and diving deeply into this empowered dance with fear. So see yourself a year from now when you've been dancing in this empowered way with fear. What new possibilities have opened up for you? Feel into those. Ooh, see yourself. This you in the future. Damn. Right, Queen? Do you see her? Shit. Notice how she feels. Notice how she walks, how she moves. Notice the eye contact she makes. This future you is already here. I want you to know that she's already here with you. She's next to you each time you take another step in this dance with fear. She is so grateful to you. I mean, I look back a year ago and I'm like, fuck yeah, thank you, Past Britta. Thank you, Past Britta, for signing up for, brain spotting therapy so that you'd be able to process all that trauma to then be able to testify. Thank you, Past Britta, for coaching with a friend around food issues that last year. A friend that happened to be a huge burner and invited you to Burning Man. Like, fuck yeah, all these little steps I took that opened up bigger dances. I want you all to understand that dancing with fear is not a one-time thing that we do just because we're considering divorce. It is a lifelong practice that is created one small, brave choice at a time, building onto big, incredible moments in your life that you will look back on and be like, fuck, I am so proud of that send. That was an amazing send. So give yourselves, in this framework of understanding it's a lifelong practice, I want you to really give yourselves permission to make each of these decisions in your own time and to trust yourselves. You will know what that next dance step is. As you go to that feeling of fear, that's that first piece, right? As you engage the fear and you process the emotion around it, that's going to open up things, and you're going to see through that next process of understanding it what that next step is. And then when you trust your inner knowing and you move forward with it, I promise you that is the way that you find clarity. That is the way that you understand and move forward into what life wants most for you. This was a really fun episode to do with all of you. I didn't realize how I was going to feel about it. But thank you for going on that journey with me. I'm really, really excited to get to dive into this even more deeply with the women in the community. In that vein, I did want to say that, I've noticed this week, now that the community is up and running, I have got some more extra beautiful energy coming through and space open. And I wanted to just reach out and invite those of you that have been feeling drawn to doing a 90-minute intensive with me to make it happen. Especially because I don't know, maybe it's astrologically right now. I know part of it is the coaching I've been doing in this extra coaching container that has been helping. It's just really up leveled my coaching recently. And I've been feeling very on fire lately with my coaching. And I'm seeing just shifts and really amazing, courageous steps being activated for individuals when they get to coach with me. And so I'm just feeling like my cup is full and running over, and I want to share more of it. So now is a really great time. I'm not always in this space, as you all know. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, I got to kind of pare things down and I got to pour into me. But lately I've been feeling like, like I have two incredible 90-minute intensives coming up this week. You know who you are, and I'm really excited to meet both of you. I was reading your notes the other day, and I was just like, nom nom nom! I can't wait to coach you. So I'm really looking forward to just, those of you that feel called, getting to connect with you and getting to really activate and bring forward that bravery and those next steps for you. Also, I wanted to make sure and mention that for those of you who have your hearts set on joining the community, and I will just say, as you should, because it really is phenomenal and so special. It's been such a gift to me too, because as many of you know, I'm not really active anymore on social media, and this has become my space where I can jump on and go live or post things whenever I feel like it. I just wanted to kind of update you all on where that's at. I just opened my second round of women coming into the community. These as well were women that had done 90-minute sessions with me. I'm still at this point, my first and second round of bringing women into the community was women that had already worked with me. It's very important to me that I really thoroughly know the women coming into the community, and wanted to make sure that that was the case for these first couple rounds. So that just barely opened. Where I'm at the moment is I may open it again at the start of December for the next round of women, but I'm kind of feeling cozy at the moment. And I'm thinking that probably what will happen is I will just wait until the start of the new year to really open up that next round. So what that means for those of you, because this next round, it will be for, those of you that have never worked with me before, but maybe are, listening on the podcast and are like, me, please start reaching out to me. I think what I'm going to do is over the next 2 months, November and December, I'm going to be doing the interview process. I'm going to be building the new list. I'm going to be getting women ready and set to come in. It's not just I open the doors and everybody comes in. This is a really sacred, special space for me and the women in it. One of the most important things is keeping it very safe and well vetted. So it's a bit of a process. It's going to be a bit of a process going forward for women who want to join, including, an interview process with me. So, which I'm really excited about. I want, for me personally, for this to be a very, what's the word? I like it kind of feeling high touch, basically, in the community. And part of that is me knowing each and every woman that's come in. So if you are like, yes, please, me, email, you can email my assistant, Alex, at stayergocoaching.com. And we're just going to be compiling that list over the next couple months, getting in touch with you, scheduling interviews with me so that we're ready come the new year to really bring in another incredible group of women. And then I kind of think what'll happen from there is I'll only have entry points at the beginning of each month. So, we'll be doing interviews during the month, and then come the next month, it'll open. So that's just kind of a view of how the community is going to work going forward. I'm really wanting to allow each group that comes in the space and time on their own to really get connected in, to feel like they're creating those bonds with the women that are in the group at the moment. So that's kind of what's driving that. So yeah, that's all I've got for you all so far. Look forward to seeing some of you in the future on the 90-minute intensives, and I will talk to you all on the next episode.